Well, welcome everyone. Great to see you here tonight. Great to see you braving those elements and coming along tonight. We've got some really cool information to share with you tonight. I'd like to share things that I've been learning about over the past 16 years of my health journey. And I've also got, I'm excited to have Hannah Ubel here, who's certified in the plant-based nutrition diet. And she's also a wellness coach, so it'll be great to have her presenting tonight as well. She's going to be also doing a demonstration, and we've got some treats for you later. We're also going to have at the end some Q&A, question and answer, so save up some good curly questions for us, and we can do that at the end. So perhaps I'll start off, and yeah, we'll hear from Hannah in a little bit. Well, as I said, I've been on the plant-based journey for 16 years now. I was working at a health club up on the Central Coast 16 years ago, and a Jewish man kept recommending a book to me called Diet for a New America. And at the time I was thinking, what's this guy on about, another book? But anyway, I decided to go and hire the book from the library, and I ended up devouring the book, read it overnight, and I walked upstairs from my house. I was living at my parents' house at the time, and said, Mum, Dad, I'm going to become a vegetarian or a vegan. And they were like, what? You used to criticise vegetarians and say they blow over in the wind. But yeah, so lo and behold, it's been 16 years and I'm feeling just as good as I was 16 years ago at 5 years of age. So it's been a good journey. So I'd like to share with you a little bit of the things that I've learnt over the past 16 years, and just to shoot off some sparks. It's not going to be heavily scientific tonight, but it's going to be shooting off some sparks to give you some resources to look into, so you can do a little bit more digging yourself. And as I said, we'll have the question and answer at the end. So we all know that disease is very widespread these days in the Western world. So everyone can relate to the serious illnesses that are prevalent in today's society. So from obesity, psoriasis, etc., it's very prevalent. One lady that was, she was actually 31 years of age. She was living in New York at the time. She's working as an actress. She had the world ahead of her, and a routine checkup at the doctor's, she was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer, a debilitating stage 4 cancer, and there was no stage 5. So she was really given a death sentence, and she didn't want to take that as an answer. So she was devastated at the time, as you would imagine, someone 31 years of age given a prognosis of a terminal cancer. And you know, as you would imagine, she was bawling her eyes out. She was distraught, and after things died down, she decided to be the CEO of her own health journey. She was the CEO. She was going to interview doctors and naturopaths and all manner of health professionals to find out who was going to help her on her health journey the most. It was a stage 4 cancer, and yeah, she checked out every healing modality in the book, but what helped her the most was a whole food, plant-based diet. She was having a lot of alkaline smoothies and green juices and green smoothies, and also just a whole food, plant-based diet. And she's found, it's been 10 years since she stumbled across the plant-based eating way, and she's been a cancer thriver for 10 years now. She's been on the Oprah Winfrey show, she's been interviewed, she's got books. I'll show you one of her resources at the end. But yeah, she's she's been a real force with the plant-based diet because it's so practically and dramatically helped her health. Well, it saved her life, really. So that's an amazing story. Is there any science? Was her story just a one-off? Is there any science when it comes to cancer or heart disease or these serious issues that a plant-based diet may be able to help with? I don't know if some of you guys have heard of Dr. T. Colin Campbell. He's a professor of biochemistry, nutritional biochemistry at Cornell University, and he was actually raised on a dairy farm. And he decided that all of his research was on protein, and having that background and affiliation, that love of the dairy farm, he was going to go over to third world countries and share the renowned protein of the first world. He was going to take protein, this Western protein that we have, over to those little third world countries and help them out. So that was his desire. But lo and behold, he went over to start this landmark study, and he found, it was a 20-year landmark epidemiological study, and he found that it was the contrary that was actually true. It was the groups in the counties in China, that had very little animal products and a higher vegetables, fruits, nuts and seeds, and just a smaller amount of animal products and proteins, more on a rare occasion, that sort of thing. These people, these counties, had a very small percentage of cancers and disease. These Western diseases were almost non-existent. Whereas the counties that had the Westernised diet, they were the ones that had a much higher prevalence of the Western diseases like cancer and heart disease. So he was really astounded that these people, that this was the case. It was opposite to what he had thought. So he said, let's go to the lab. Let's get some rats involved and go to the lab. So what he found is, and some researchers in India had prompted his thoughts on this casein, the milk protein, how it can affect cancer. And so he went to the lab and he gave one set of rats a 20% casein diet. And these rats developed tumours, cancerous tumours. And then he thought, okay, let's drop back and we'll give them 5% casein protein diet. And these rats went in remission to cancer. So they could literally switch on and switch off cancer in these rats. It's a remarkable study. If you want to see more references, that these all can be found in his book, The China Study. One of his colleagues, it's actually in a documentary called Forks Over Knives, is Dr. Ethelstein, Caldwell Ethelstein, a bit of a tongue twister. He's featured in this documentary called Forks Over Knives. If you get the chance to see it, it's amazing. But one of his patients that I remember from the film had a remarkable reversal of coronary disease. As you can see in the picture, this was the blockage in his artery, and then on the Ethelstein protocol, which was a whole food, plant-based diet with a small amount of fats. So it was just 10% fats or under, and he prescribes for his heart disease patients no oils, because they're on death row, they're knocking on death's door. So he gets quite serious, and he has a remarkable recovery rate. If his patients follow the protocol, he gets incredible results. It's really astounding. Okay, now an important topic that really gets people challenged is weight loss, fat loss. What's the best and healthiest ways to lose weight? There's a myriad of diets out there that promote weight loss. what's the best weight loss diet out there? Well, the one that I've found to be the best is the whole food, high fibre diet. If you think about it, if you're eating whole grains, whole veggies, fruits, some nuts and seeds and legumes, you're getting all this fibre from a whole food that's filling you up, that's also sustaining your energy throughout the day, and it's remarkable the amount of weight people lose on this diet, and furthermore it's so much more sustainable. It's not a fad diet, it's just leaning in to eating more fruits that you enjoy. It's leaning in to more veggies you enjoy. Another key is trying to eat a substantial breakfast. So including some brown rice or quinoa, oats, sorghum in your breakfast, that's going to give you a sustained energy, so you're not inclined to clutch for the junk food, and it's going to give you lasting energy, and it's going to fill you up with the fibre-rich food. So including some superfoods like blueberries, etc. Another trick is to add some ground flaxseed or chia seed into your diet. That's going to give you the omega-3s and the high fibre as well. Another really good weight loss food is the broccoli. Broccoli is amazing. There's even a phytochemical in there, I forgot the name, but broccoli is an incredible weight loss food. Another good idea is to switch over from cow's milk to the nut milks, there's whole grain milks, whole soya milks. There's so many options with milks these days. Some really good tasting ones out there now as well. So choose whatever suits yourself. Like when you think about the logic of it, with a baby calf, the cow's milk is designed to make that calf into a giant cow. So it's got to grow pretty dramatically. So this milk has really got to do some serious work to boost up that little calf. So so cow's milk, as we saw, casein, does a great job in growing dramatically these little calves. Doesn't have such a good job with the human. Okay, youngering. So another topic that's quite interesting is the topic of youngering. Everyone wants to find the fountain of youth, stay younger for longer. And a gentleman by the name of Jarrad Leto, I don't know if you've seen any of his films, Dallas Buyers Club, he's done a number of films. He's also in a band as well. So Jarrad Leto, believe it or not, he's 44 years of age, and he looks so young. He looks young, feels young, and what does he attribute to this fountain of youth that he stumbled across? He follows a whole food vegan diet. He eats a lot of alkalizing greens and antioxidant rich foods, not a particularly high protein diet. He prefers outdoor cardio exercise, hiking and that sort of thing. He's straight edge, so I believe he's not a drinker, not into drugs, so very clean sort of lifestyle. But he's really stumbled on something, I believe. What he's discovered, this fountain of youth, this way of eating, has been shown to decrease the length of our genes, our telomere length. And so a high fruit and vegetable diet, a low saturated fat and cholesterol diet, has shown to reduce this telomere length and aid people's longevity. So if you want to stay young for longer, embrace the fruit and veggies. Can anyone guess how old Mimi Kirk is? You get a treat, the first treat at the end for someone guessing her age. 60. Do I have a lower or higher on 60? 63. Do we have a higher or lower on 63?
64.
64. Do I have a lower or higher on 64? Keep going up.
70.
Close. Anyone? Keep going up.
Really?
She's 77 this year, I believe. Probably 74 when that picture was taken. She was voted sexiest woman over 50. I think one of the vegetarian awards. She was voted sexiest woman over 50 a few years ago when she was 74. So she's doing all right, isn't she? So what is Mimi's secret? She's plant-based. She's on the plants. She's been vegetarian or vegan for 40 years. Only the past few years, she eats most of her, she's vegan now, she eats most of her foods fresh. So a heavy emphasis on the fruits and veggies, and a lot of smoothies, and that's really kept her young, like remarkable for 77. And her boyfriend, I believe, is like 20 years younger. He struggles to keep up. So she's doing pretty well. Okay, that leads us to the age-old question, the first question most people asked about, and when you lean into a plant-based way of eating, is where on earth do you get your protein? Are you going to blow away in the wind with weakness? Are you going to curl over and die with weakness because you're lacking protein? Well, I'll give you $100 for someone here that's heard of someone that's had a protein deficiency. Has anyone heard of any of their friends or family with a protein deficiency? No? Good. I'll keep the 100. So basically, protein deficiency is only an issue in third world countries where they're not getting enough calories. So if you get enough calories, you get enough protein. I've done a lot of studies where they've fed people like potato diets for months on end, and there's been no problems with protein. So really, if you're eating enough calories, you're getting enough protein. What about, can I back this up with anything? Well, just logic. Think about mother's milk. Human mother's milk has on average about 6% of its protein percentage of protein is about 6% with human mother's milk. So look, fruit has about 5 to 7%. I'm not saying just eat fruit, but if you're eating a wide variety of plant-based foods, you're getting more than enough protein. So this gentleman here, Tory Washington, he's a plant-based bodybuilder. He actually doesn't even routinely use protein powders. He prefers to eat, and I don't blame him. So he'll have a big meal of whole foods, plenty of beans and legumes, that sort of thing, whole grains, greens, and he has no problem putting the muscle on. So yeah, and if you think about nature, all the elephants and whatnot, they're huge, and they just eat a gorilla's plant-based diet. So you can certainly bulk up on just a whole food plant-based diet. 10% is a bit of a safety margin. As long as we're getting about 10%, which is very easy, we'll have no problems with protein deficiency. Also, it's not just the fact that you're getting enough protein with plant-based foods, is when you have plant-based foods, it's going to be a lot more conducive to recovery. So a lot of athletes and whatnot are clutching for the protein. You see all these protein ads, but really when you're getting your protein from plant-based foods, they come in packages. And these packages are going to have all your antioxidants and whatnot that are going to give you that recovery. So they're very good for recovery for athletes, and there's a less stress on the body. If you're eating a lot of animal-rich foods, there's a stress on the body, because there's no fibre in animal foods. To digest that big steak is a taxing occurrence, and your body has to work hard for 4 or 5 hours to digest that meat. Where if you're having some legumes, veggie burgers, that the digestion time is a lot less, and a lot less taxing on the body. So So when you're getting the packages of foods, say the legumes with the protein, you're not only getting the protein, you're getting the carbohydrates, the fibre, plant phytosterols, innumerable phytonutrients, thousands of phytonutrients. Scientists are still discovering all of the phytochemicals. Do you want the $50 note or the 20? That's your question. So making this happen, well, really, there's normally two types of people in the world. Those who like to dive into things and just do things overnight, or there's those that really like to lean into it. So if I was a person that just dove in, I just went plant-based overnight. That's just the way it worked for me. But a lot of other people prefer to lean into things and just think about what your favourite meals are. If you love Mexican, you can have corn tortillas with black beans, salad, guacamole. You can even get some really tasty plant-based cheeses, believe it or not, for pizza and guacamole and that sort of thing. And making this happen, it's leaning into the foods you like and just making them more plant-based. And eat a wide variety of foods, plant-based foods, variety of grains, legumes, fruits, veggies, nuts and seeds. Just a few things to remember is vitamin D. If you're not getting regular vitamin D from the sun, it is recommended that for safety reasons, you just make sure you get vitamin D from fortified foods or a supplement. If you're getting plenty of sun, that's fine. It's the best way to get sun is from vitamin D is from the sun. Also vitamin B12, just for insurance purposes, it is best to take a chewable vitamin B12 if you're eating a plant-based diet, just to make sure that everything, your good bacteria is processing the B12. Omega-3 rich foods is very important. So if you include daily, if you can, either flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts into your diet, it's going to be very good for skin health and cellular health. Also, foods for the gut, which Hannah is going to be elaborating on. I like to have raw sauerkraut. You can get some really good raw sauerkrauts these days. Coconut yogurt, I had some last night, and coconut water kefir, teeming with health. Okay, you can be the healthiest plant-based eater on the planet, but if you're stressed out, if you're sitting in a cafeteria, got the most healthy food in the cafeteria, but your gut's churning with stress, you're not going to digest the food properly. So health is beyond food. So remembering that it's not just food, health is about mental nutrition and lifestyle. It's about living and eating with an attitude of gratitude. It's getting as much love and laughter into your day as possible. And it's living with that sense of purpose and celebration of the moment. Health is a balance. Intellectual, emotional, social, career, spiritual, physical. It's weaving all aspects of your life into a finely crafted balance, so your health will flourish with the balance. It's making sure you're getting enough water, sunshine, enough rest, all of those good things. Some resources that have really helped myself is definitely T. Colin Campbell's The China Study, a new book that's come out fairly recently with the title How Not to Die, is a really good one, heavily scientific. Also Thrive, Brendan Brazier, is a plant-based athlete. That's a really good one for recovery in the plant-based diet. Chris Carr's Crazy Sexy Diet is a really fun book. Gives you some really good practical ideas on the plant-based lifestyle. An awesome documentary, if you haven't seen it, is Cowspiracy. Leonardo DiCaprio was the producer, I believe, for that one. Really hard-hitting documentary on more the environmental and ethical side of the plant-based lifestyle. And an amazing documentary that I mentioned before is The Forks Over Knives. It's It's a great documentary. So thanks a lot for listening, guys. Save up your curly questions and I'll pass it over to Hannah.
What an amazing presentation. So good. You touched on so much stuff. It's really good. So I'm eventually going to make you a smoothie, but I suppose I just want to mention maybe a little bit about myself, because you don't know who I am. Maybe you guys know Jarrad because he works here. So I work as a raw food chef. I work for a company called Orchard Street, which they're predominantly based down in the eastern suburbs. So maybe you haven't frequented there or visited there. So I work in a giant commercial kitchen, and I've spent the last 2 years working there, but I've spent the last, I'd say, 6.5 years eating and living and breathing a whole food plant-based diet. And I co-founded a cooking class company called Raw Living Academy with a friend of mine, and we have done retreats and raw food cooking classes and stuff like that too. With him, we've taken a little bit of a break from that because, you know, lifestyle reasons, things get a little bit crazy. And so now I just purely focus on doing that solo, and I practice Reiki as well. So as well as a plant-based diet, this is also an energetic kind of cleanse for your system. So I have clients that I help with that. So I'm doing actually a special offer today. If you want to book in 2 sessions, it's for $70, but that will be down the eastern suburbs way. But I highly recommend that because you can only do so much inside, but daily stresses and things like that kind of give you blockages in your energy, and you just kind of feel a bit crept up with lots of different things. So anywho, Jarrad touched on the T. Colin Campbell book, The China Study. There's actually a course online that I actually just finished not long ago based on that research, which is such a wide, broad variety of things when it comes to plant-based foods. And yes, it's highly important to think about the protein intake, because the last 50 or so years we've been, you know, brainwashed by media that we need all this protein in our diet, and it's actually having a detrimental effect. And really we only need 8 to 10% max, and you'll achieve that just by eating clean, whole food, plant-based foods. So achievable and so much more readily available for your body than, say, eating a piece of steak that doesn't have any fiber, that is 50% protein. So you're going to use that first 10%, and then the rest is just going to be doing a lot of damage, really. It's really not hard to see when you start delving in and doing your own research the amazing benefits. I was a model for about 10 years, and initially throughout my career it was, I suppose, probably about the halfway mark that I decided my metabolism changed, I kind of came of age, and you sort of start to think about why my body doesn't look the way that it used to, and that's really an important thing when you're a model. So I needed to look at the most healthy ways to lose weight and keep it off. So predominantly thinking about it as a lifestyle, something I was going to stick with because it was really the only way to do it. And I came across this raw food diet, and while it has its huge merits in detoxification, in weight loss, in amazing benefits in healing the body of all different kinds of ailments and diseases, it can be quite cooling on the body. So most people that do 100% that are really hardcore live in a really warm environment, or you can up your spices and drink loads of warm teas and all that kind of stuff if it's come to winter time. And we live in a fairly temperate climate here, but there are a few months of the year that make it a bit challenging for that sort of thing. So eating things like quinoa and oats and things a lot more grounding but maybe potentially warm can be doable. So I switched over. I was a little bit crazy like Jarrad. At 22 I went cold turkey on like everything processed and meat, and started upping more and more greens, having green smoothies, green juices every day, and I never really focused too much on exercise. I just was slender, that was just my body type, and so I guess I was genetically lucky, but at the same time, what are my insides looking like? So I went cold turkey. I spent 6 months exercising 5 or 6 days a week. It was pretty hardcore. And I lost about 13 kilograms in that time. And at the time, I don't drink anymore, but my parents were a really bad influence and I don't live with them anymore. But I was having, say, a glass of wine with dinner most nights, and that was during that, say, cleanse. Because it was kind of, when I went cold turkey and everything else, sugar, everything like that, I was having the most weird reactions in my body. So that's something that if you eat such a drastic difference to that sort of a lifestyle, it's something you need to think about in terms of a transition. I think is a little bit safer to do. A little bit, doable. A little bit more doable. So that's a little bit about me, and I suppose I was always a bit of a foodie, so it was a bit of a creative outlet for me, and I'm just fortunate now that in the last 2 years I get to work in it every day. I can come to different people's places, and I do like private dinner parties and teaching people, I suppose, how to go through their cupboard and really kind of ransack that to a whole food side of life. We touched on fermented foods, and I think that's a really important thing to talk about is gut health, because eating a whole bunch of amazing nutrients from plant-based foods might be good, but if you're not absorbing it, then what good is it doing you? So you need to think about putting all of the really good gut bacteria back in there, the happy guys that kind of fight off the bad guys and create the issues. So fermented foods is a great way to do that. And things like kombucha and kefir, particularly water kefir, are amazing things to do that. And I teach fermented food workshops mostly at the moment in Queensland with my sister, but can do it here eventually. And we've seen some dramatic changes in our own health, but not only that, in my sister's children's health and friends of friends, just by introducing water kefir into your daily life, I suppose. Just, like half a glass is amazing at what different things you can cure in your body, no matter how small. Like warts will fall off, or, my youngest niece was born with a dairy intolerance, and she can now drink milk just by having kefir every day. That's their choice to drink that, but so just an example. And other people have said you are what you absorb. So that's a really interesting point. So things like kefir and kombucha are called wild ferments because they feed on sugar and they're going to be a little bit sweet, but depends how long you ferment them for. And there are plenty of places around here. This is a great healthy community hub up this way. I think there's even a new raw food cafe that's opened or is opening at Brookvale. Is that correct? Has anybody heard of it? There's one in Manly as well?
Yeah, heavily raw, plant-based diet.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, cool.
There's a new one. Oh, cool.
Yeah, great. Oh, that's, I think, maybe the one. Is it O Farm? O Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, cool. So plenty of places here you can easily find things like that. But the best way of doing it is to make those yourself at home. And it's a thousands and thousands of year old tradition. It's whole food in the probiotic sense. And you can get trillions more good bacteria by doing that, drinking that even, than taking a supplement. Trillions more. So much better for your health. And there's been studies that have been done that probiotic supplements actually don't work. So yeah, it's really interesting. A couple of other things I wanted to touch on. Yeah, fibre is amazing because it only comes from plants. There is no fibre in really animal foods, and it's quite an important thing when you look at the standard Australian diet or standard American diet, because they're so it's so heavy in processed foods and foods that have been stripped away of all their goodness in that sense, and again high amounts of animal protein, whether that's dairy or other animal foods. It's there's no fibre, and so all these people need fibre supplements to kind of get that stuff going, and it's a really important thing. When you start looking at maybe what the media tells us, the way that we've been brought up to eat, that there might be some kind of correlation between the high level of disease and issues in the body that we're seeing in our day and age, particularly cancer and that sort of thing, especially when there's been studies done that you can actually reverse it by eating a plant-based diet. So yeah, huge things to think about and so many merits. I'll be 30 this year, and I know I don't look it right, so another young groom maybe. So yeah, we might do a little bit of a smoothie, get stuff shaking up. So this is going to be nice and simple, something you can easily do at home. I've just been soaking some cashews. Essentially this is kind of going to make its own milk in a way. And then I'm going to add 2 bananas. You're welcome to chat amongst yourselves. So this is 1 cup of cashews with 2 bananas, 5 cups of water, half a cup of whole grain rolled oats. I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. You could even do coconut water as well, which would really help with the electrolytes after recovery too. For recovery after, say, a pretty hardcore gym workout. I'm using half a tablespoon of ginger. Something that's really, I think, important to think about too is the organic versus inorganic, because your intestines actually absorb everything through your skin. Really, so they hold so much stuff in there, and it's actually really amazing, the babies that are born these days that have like thousands and like hundreds of thousands of toxins in there just from being exposed to the environment. So we're already born with it these days, and it can be alarming, yes, but you're going to get around okay. But it could mean that you have more tendencies towards different diseases or issues, that kind of thing, and it is very easy to detox out. It does take some time, and it does take the right things, and a whole food plant-based diet is a great way of doing that, especially loads of greens and things that are really antioxidant rich. You can also use things like, well, cleansers really, juice cleansers, fasting, that kind of thing, and activated charcoal is actually a really good one because it pulls out all kinds of crap out of your body, particularly in your gut, that's going to really clean out that stuff and give you a fresh start. And they can also, these toxins, I mean, there's things called obesogens, which are actually found in like beauty products that you put on your skin, and very endocrine disruptive type things. There are different toxins that cause hormone imbalances, loads of different stuff. So it's really important to clean those out on a regular basis, because just breathing the air, particularly living around traffic areas and just, yeah, really kind of living in a capital city, you're definitely going to get more exposure to those toxins than someone that lives out rural. All right, so I've just put in half a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to do a pinch of salt just because I kind of like the balance between sweet and salty, and it's kind of good actually if you're eating bananas because they're quite high in potassium, and for hydration in the body, in every cell you kind of need a balance between potassium and sodium. So a bit of salt, we've done our ginger. Yeah, that's going to be kind of the basis. You can even add in cacao if you wanted to, make it a nice kind of chocolate shake. You could add a couple of drops of, say, orange essential oil, and you could add in maybe a tablespoon of like your favorite nut butter. This is going to be hazelnut butter, so it's kind of my favorite at the moment. Does anybody make their own nut milks already at home? 2 people? Yes, 3? Maybe? So for the others that don't, it's super easy, really easy. You can use something called a nut milk bag, which is really like just an organza piece of cloth. And with cashews, I don't find it's really very necessary. You just kind of end up with like a tablespoon of mush in the bottom, and it's not really, there's no point really. Might as well just drink it. So just soaking your nuts or seeds, you can even make seed milks, that sort of thing. That's pretty cool. You can do combinations of different things to get different flavors, and yeah, so easy to do at home, and it's so much better than buying the stuff that you buy off the shelf in the Tetra Packs that have been highly heated, so anything that's kind of good in it has been killed out in the process, and you're just left with this kind of flavored liquid, whereas what's kind of intended for you to drink isn't really kind of there anymore. So that's something to think about. Even your coconut water, think about that. The electrolytes that are present in a young coconut are not the same as what you buy in a bottle, because to get it into that heat sealed package so that it gets to you kind of a year's time, whoever knows how long you're going to drink it later on, it's not going to be the same at all. You'll just kind of be drinking this sweet liquid with maybe like, who knows, like a 1/6 of the amount of electrolytes in there. So something to consider is doing things at the whole food level, I guess, for yourself. Yeah. So this is going to make a bit of noise, and I'm really sorry. Particularly for you, sorry. The good thing in winter as well about having, say, a Vitamix or a high-speed blender or something like a Thermomix is that you can actually warm up the liquid, so you can drink like something that's kind of cozy and nice, like a hug. Yeah, and you can't do that, I suppose, with more of your sort of cocktail style blenders. So I'm going to give you each one of these. Yum! I might grab your help, Brad, if you wouldn't mind just passing them out. You might use that silver tray actually. That's a good idea. I would probably drink something like this for breakfast, or, you know, people do different things, and I think what Jarrad and I are sort of trying to get across to you is just figure out what works best for you, but do a lot more of your own research in terms of the benefits of a diet like this. And it might take you some time, you might never get to eating a fully plant-based diet, and that's fine as long as you're getting more of the stuff that you kind of really need in terms of veggies, fruits, nuts, seeds. There's so many different food groups to consider as well. I made a giant list so that you can all just get a really good concept. So dark green leafy vegetables, I think, should be their own category. Do you have enough?
3 more. 4.
Yep.
4 more.
So dark green leafy veggies should be their own category. We've got fruits, vegetables, legumes and pulses, whereas if you're a raw foodist you generally don't eat those things. The legumes and pulses part. Seaweeds are really cool, and everybody should be getting a lot more seaweeds in their life because amazing for brain function. Seaweeds? Brain function, assimilating different nutrients properly, really good for skin. Yeah, loads of different things. Algae, and so things like spirulina and blue-green algae, really, really amazing. Grasses, different grasses like wheatgrass, barley grass, that kind of thing. All these things are different types of food groups, and so people kind of categorize things and blend things into larger groups, but it kind of shouldn't really be that way. Fermented foods, own food group. Nuts and seeds, grains, herbs, so in the medicinal kind of sense. Fats and oils. Yeah, lots of different types of food groups to consider.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the kefir, like how do you make kefir, like how do you make that?
Yeah.
Because I've only ever seen milk-based kefir.
Yep. Sure. So it's just a different strain of symbiotic bacteria. So it looks a bit different to what the milk grain does. The milk grain sort of looks like a brain, really. It's kind of like this strange sloppy brain kind of thing, kind of like cauliflower actually, a little bit like that. And yeah, it feeds on milk, but they don't love it for a really long time, say like 6 months to a year. They'll eventually die because really they've grown to feed on casein and milk in the dairy sense. But you can actually make coconut-based kefir from that, feeding it coconut milk. And it will get a really sour, really sour type tart taste. And there's a different strain of bacteria to that one, which is water-based. And so they look a little bit more like granules, I suppose. And they feed on sugar. So kombucha then is like a pancake mushroom, strange thing. It's very alien. And different again. And feeds on sugar, yes, but it really likes to grow in tea. So water-based kefir, you'll just feed it the best kind of filtered water that you have. They really don't like tap water. I don't recommend that because you'll kill them, because they are a living organism. And so if you feed it some sort of sugar over 24 to 48 hours, depending on the room temperature, it changes obviously throughout the year, and they will bubble and fizz and it'll look a little bit like beer or champagne, and that's when you know that it's ready. Yeah, and so that's how they thrive and live. And they put all of this good bacteria into the liquid, and that's what you drink.
But where do you get the kefir base from? Like
the grains? Yeah, look, generally you can actually buy them in stores now. I've seen that it's Australia, particularly Sydney, I've found that there's, or you can get it from somebody else that you know.
Yeah.
Generally it's been like a pass-on thing because they just keep growing and multiplying. Like you just need to offhand eventually because there's just too much going on. And so most of the time you just get it from somebody you know, or you can buy them say from different health food stores and things. There's a company in Sydney called Imbibi, and I've seen in different health food stores she's got sachets you can just take ready to go. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions?
Good. It looks like we've covered some bases, huh?
Hope so.
All right. No worries.
Actually,
Yeah, you go for it.
what would be some like foods that substitute as proteins, like spinach and stuff?
Yeah.
True, I guess.
Yeah. So the important thing to think about is when say you might have a food that's plant-based, that's quite high in protein, but it's what you also eat with it and what else is in that that makes it high in protein. So just by eating like a normal kind of vegetarian meal, if you have a little bit of quinoa, if you've got some broccoli, you might have some dark green leafy veggies, you might have some, who knows, zucchini, legumes, whatever it might be. Just by eating that, there's more than enough protein in that meal than you'll need. And the funny thing about eating a plant-based diet when it comes to protein is that your body kind of recognizes it a bit more, and even if you are getting, say, I don't know how you could do it, but 20% of protein in that meal, or even 50%, which really would never happen, but anything over that 10%, your body just kind of just goes, yeah, I don't really need that part, so it's all good. The thing to think about is your body is just the most amazing healing mechanism, and all it ever wants to do is replenish and save itself. So doing all the right stuff, this is one step in it, is going to help that. So yeah, I guess, does that answer your question, that it recognises just how to do it? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think for like bodybuilders and whatnot that really want to bulk up, put on a lot of muscle, you could include more in your diet, more legumes. Like you could have your veggie lentil patties or lentil burgers, or in your risotto you can add beans like borlotti beans, chickpeas, all that sort of thing. Those legumes and nuts and seeds are high protein foods. So if you're wanting to put on some muscle, you can include more of those foods in your diet. And even leafy greens, as you mentioned, are about 30% protein. So if you're having enough of greens as well, but
green smoothies help for that because you can just drink more than you would consume.
Shakes or anything like that?
well, you don't need it. You don't really need it.
Yeah,
You get for insurance, like not insurance, convenience. Like if you're on the run or whatever, and you can't have a proper meal.
Yeah.
You can even buy whole nut powders. Like it's not illegal in Australia, but you can have hemp powder.
Yeah.
Nuts and seeds.
Yeah.
But it's meant to be for topical. It's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's meant. It's meant to be for topical, for non-food. You're meant to use it for facials and whatnot.
Yeah.
Or
you can.
Or you
Some
can
health
just
food stores
buy.
are crossing the line, because it is still illegal in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
Which is so stupid. But anyway,
It's
a whole nother
stupid. On the
story.
record, it is stupid. So look, you don't really need protein. As the example I showed before, that Tory Washington guy, he mainly doesn't rely on protein powders, and he's a professional bodybuilder. So if people like that don't need protein powders, you don't really need it. It's just, I guess it's the fear of all the bodybuilding magazines and the fitness magazines for decades of, to look like this, you need to have our protein powder. And it's a bit of a psychology that's sort of crept in, and it's made a bit of a fear mongering. But really,
Which is true to say for many things, really.
Yeah.
Would you think that that's also promoting quite a heavy meat-based diet in order to get that big? Because wouldn't those muscles generally be quite fat?
Well,
Quite heavy in fat?
because there's such a high fat content in meats, it's going to be a lot easier to put on weight with eating a lot of meats. Fat, eating a lot of meat, fat, bulking goes hand in hand. So you're going to have to do a lot of cardio to.
So would you then think that for building that big as a plant-based eater, you would need things that are quite fatty, so like soy heavy things?
You can have tempeh, which is the cultured soy product, which is a whole bean cultured product. Tofu is a refined soya product, so it's not ideal. Time to time eating is fine, but if you can if you like the taste of tempeh, you can get flavoured ones.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an acquired taste. But yeah, so tempeh or just other types of legumes, whatever you prefer, chickpeas and whatnot. If you have like brown rice with a legume like chickpeas and whatnot, that sort of food is more than enough for a bodybuilder, as long as you're getting enough calories. Yeah,
Something
per day.
to think about as well, you just touched on soy. Definitely, it's something just to have in your awareness that it's quite estrogen promoting, because particularly us, most of us in this room are women. So really we don't usually need more estrogen, and so that's quite a rich food in that. It's also quite fatty. So just maybe not something that you're going to have every day. I wouldn't. Soy. So whether that's milk or kind of tofu based products. And when it comes to tofu, tempeh is kind of the more whole food sense of that, and it's also been fermented. So when it's been fermented, you kind of recognise it and assimilate it a lot better. In terms of that.
You really don't need to worry about protein.
No.
It's
We're in a gym, so I knew
it's
that.
a good question. It's a good question and a very common one.
Yeah.
But I've looked at scientific studies where they've actually trialled a low protein diet. It was per kilogram of weight, people were put on 0.6 grams of protein per kilo. And they found that people on that low protein diet actually gained muscle. So it's been scientifically shown you can gain muscle on what's considered a low protein diet. So it's really not something, as long as you're getting enough calories, you'll be fine.
Can I ask some other questions?
Yeah.
I've got friends who read the China study and also went like vegan.
Okay.
They have like one meal a week that is like where they still have fish or meat, but otherwise they eat vegan. And they like, especially the guy, he's lost a lot of weight, but also muscle. Like it looks like he's lost muscle. So I'm just wondering if like on his arms and things, just he's really gone lean. And I'm just wondering if you need to be really careful with what you eat, like in terms of making sure you get enough of all the stuff you need to really plan.
Good question.
Rather than just eat what you feel like.
Yeah, very good question. I think depending on what you eat as a plant-based eater, you have to eat more food. If you're a plant-based eater and a guy and you're eating a lot of salad, the weight comes off.
You need to have like 6 meals a day. Or something.
One of my old housemates, he went on a plant-based diet and ate a lot of fruits and salads. He lost a ton of weight, but if guys want to keep the muscle on, they have to make sure they're eating enough calories. So I don't know if he's eating enough like whole grains, the quinoas and the brown rices and the legumes, or oats and things like that, as well as the fresh fruits and veggies, but eating enough to get enough calories per day.
Everybody's body is different in how it processes, your protein, your carbohydrates, your fats. Everyone's different, and so it's really cool to kind of tweak your diet different ways just to see what works for you, what you feel best on. And maybe it's an important thing to think about is that, when you start eating more plant foods, you're going to strip away the fat that just doesn't need to be there. You don't hold on to so much more stuff. Especially if you're exercising all the time, you're just going to totally shred. And so maybe think about if that's maybe for your friend, maybe his body type, maybe this is his body type and he was just holding on to a lot more stuff that he didn't necessarily need in terms of maybe even toxins and different fats that have been there for a really long time that maybe are no longer serving him. But it is kind of normal, I find, people to lose weight, especially initially. In the first year or two, you lose a bunch of weight. This is a vegan brownie made by Orchard Street. Actually, it was made by myself, but at Orchard Street. So it's an almond meal base, and it's full of lots of medicinal herbs like rhodiola and ashwagandha. yeah, really good for kind of grounding and balancing hormones, that sort of thing. There is a bit of salt, which goes so well with chocolate. So it tastes very indulgent, but it's very good for you.
It looks so lovely.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming out tonight. Thank you for your questions. It's been really good. Thank you, Hannah. For
Thank you.
Good talk. Yeah.
Great, thanks
Thank you,
for
Steve.
inviting me.
Yeah.